The Maple Leafs lose in Boston. Tree Living adding a couple of mammoths to the blue line. And are there more moves to be made by the trade deadline? Let's break it all down on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Well, if you would have placed a $5 bet on the Boston Bruins tonight, you would have won. They finish off the sweep of the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll get into that. The Leafs swinging a deal to bring in 6'5", 220-pound Joel Edmundson today as well, part of the series of trades that went down on the eve of trade deadline. We'll get into all of that and break down Edmundson's addition as well in just a little bit. But let's focus on last night's game, Dave. The Leafs losing 4-1 to the Boston Bruins. I mean, it was an entertaining game. There was surely a lot of animosity. You had a couple of fights. There was some aggression, some skirmishes and scrums. But boy, did the Leafs to me ever look a little sluggish tonight. It's now also 7 straight losses to the Bruins. They get swept in the season series. What did you make of that mess out there, Dave?
Yeah, I saw a team that, especially at the beginning, didn't look like they had the energy, right?
That first period was just putrid, man. Putrid.
They couldn't do much right, especially there was nothing going for them offensively. Boston was all over. And I think it's, again, the Bruins. I think was it Frederick that brought up with Mark Masters saying, we kind of got fired up a bit by the pregame ceremony, and we we're a team that was waiting for Toronto to come in. Toronto's coming out in the second half of back-to-back. The flu bug is kind of going around the Leafs, but again, teams teams have to deal with this all season long, right? It's a Toronto specific situation, and to me, I just didn't like the effort, especially offensively. I thought there wasn't enough conviction offensively, a lot of perimeter play and allowing Boston to kind of dictate the game, especially in the first period. I thought the second period was better.
The first 10 minutes were better for sure.
Yep. And then the Leafs just fell apart defensively, again, beating themselves like they normally do. And so, yeah, a game like this. Now, am I going to overreact and say now that the Leafs are going to get swept by Boston in the playoffs? No, but at the same time, I am concerned about how the Bruins style of play resembles a lot of what you're going to see in the playoffs. And the Leafs style of play tonight, that does look like a team that could get swept if that's the effort they're going to bring every night.
Well, I think there was a lot that went against Toronto. Like you said, there is a bug going through the room. They're on the second night of a back-to-back. They're 4 games in 6 nights. They've played a lot of hockey recently. I'll give them that. I'll grant them that. However, I still think that this is a team that, you got to wake up for these games. We talked about it going in, how this was a massive 2 points, a massive 2 points. It was probably the difference between staying in lockstep with the Bruins to try and still get your stake of claim of home ice for round 1, which most likely is going to be against this Bruins team. But if you lost, that probably goes down the drain. And now, well, what happens? They lost in regulation. Boston got 2 points. They're now up 9 points in the standings. And the Leafs got a couple games in hand. But I mean, even if they win both of those games, you still have 5 points you got to make up within 19 games, I guess 17 games at that point, if we include those wins. It's going to be tough to do against a Bruins team that's battle tested, and they're just a really good team. It is. It's a good squad. That said, some of the things that we saw happen in Toronto when they lost to Boston, crept up here again tonight. But Joel Edmundson should help with that. We'll talk about that addition in a second. I want to get to the good, the bad, the ugly pretty quickly here because we got a lot to talk about, and I think it's just a good way for us to get through what we saw in this game tonight. What at least was good about this hockey game, Dave? Can you pull a couple things?
I mean, I guess the pushback, right? Like
Yeah.
they stuck up for each other. The Bruins weren't taking liberties. I would have wished to have seen it earlier in the game in that first period, especially with Charlie Coyle.
You saw it out of McAvoy or out of
Jake
McCabe.
Yeah, I kind of wish you don't get a guy in the face. Like, are we not learning our lesson about cross-checking guys with sticks in the face?
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if the league looks at that. Like if it was any other team, any other team, Dave. No, it's not a suspendable play. It was the Maple Leafs, and well,
I mean, Marchand did a good job selling it.
Yeah, he looked like he got shot in the chest for sure.
Yeah,
when he took that. I don't know. Like I'm on the fence about it. Like I tweeted out being like, yeah, I'm all for sending a message, but try and do it between the whistles, and especially not after you had just taken a penalty. So to put your team on, a 5-on-3, or I guess what should have been a 4-minute 5-on-4, I suppose, if it was called correctly.
Yeah, there's a big difference between they got it right later in the game.
Oh, yeah, actually, of course. Yeah. When it's time, for Toronto, of course they got it right later in the game. Absolutely. But, I think, situationally, you just wish that if he was going to do that, if he wanted to take liberties on Marchand at some point in the night, probably shouldn't do it when you already have a penalty on the play. Like taking a second one, just usually not the right call situationally. Yeah. But at the same time, I get it. We want to see that pushback. We want to see someone punch Marchand in the mouth. And, McCabe was willing to do it. So I'm talking out both sides of my mouth there, I suppose, and not everything can be perfect. It is what it is. It was costly at the end of the day, right? They did score on that power play, and that kind of got the ball rolling for the Boston Bruins here. But to your point, I guess since we're talking about the good, I don't know why I decided to go on that tangent. The physicality as a whole, I liked as well. The pushback, you had Domi drop the mitts. You had Bertuzzi absolutely fill in Wotherspoon, just lefts and uppercuts and over. Like he was just giving them the business on that one. Yeah. And, I definitely felt that the Leafs stuck out for themselves. Like I saw a quote post game, Max Domi came out and said, this probably was in between the first and second period, I would imagine. But the quote says something along the lines of, we told ourselves in the room that we were going to stick up for each other. And you could see that that's kind of what happened in the second and third period. Anytime there was any type of skirmish, there was usually 5 guys in the pile. And against the Boston Bruins, it's kind of what you want to see.
It is. And you notice the Leafs played better in the second period because they weren't afraid of the Bruins' physicality, right? They kind of battled through it. I don't think they did a good job with that in the first period, and that's, I think, what led to the sloppy play. Second period, you saw it dishing back. The Bruins were getting the Bruins are the job is to get other teams frustrated. The Leafs, what I think they did well is got the Bruins frustrated too, right? Because now the Bruins are like, we're dishing it. Now we got to take it too. And so I think there was a little bit of that. And so I mean, Bertuzzi especially, he did it the right way. He made sure the guy was willing to fight, right? Because we've seen like he didn't want to take that extra instigator penalty, and start things on that fight that he had. And Domi, right? I know maybe some people might say it might have said it was a little excessive how many times he fought, but he's sending a message. It's all about sending a message and saying, you know what, we might be losing this game, but you're not taking liberties. And
kind of wanted Ryan Reeves to go someone or lay a big hit there in the final minute. Like he's out there for a shift late in the fourth period, late in the third period. It's like, well, he could do something, take a chunk out of them and then say, we'll see you in 6 weeks. You know what I mean? I would have been okay with that. Anything else that was good that you enjoyed? Anyone have like a a super swell performance tonight that you want to give some love to.
I
I can't really. Like, I didn't
I
think
mean,
there
the
was.
numbers would suggest that again, Lubushkin had another decent game,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
I think it
maybe
was 66% expected goals, or 69%, I believe. And he's been, yeah, like he's won all of the minutes that he's played so far this season. Or at least every game he's played, he's won his minutes, which love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. The bad, a little bit more of bad in this game. Um, look, that William Nylander was bad tonight. He was bad, bad. Bad change, turnover on that Frederick goal. I thought that, he didn't really have it tonight. Was it the fur? No, which other goal? The other power play goal that they scored, where he was just in no man's land. I don't know
was
what
it
the
the
hell he was.
geeky one?
Yeah, I think it was the geeky goal. Don't know
Yeah.
what he was doing. Like, just completely puck
Yeah.
watching. He's got to get down there and take away that pass, that seam pass like that. So that I didn't like either. Just thought overall he didn't seem to have it tonight. And it's disappointing when a guy who just got a big fat contract, has a night like that. I get it. Whatever. Not everyone's going to be perfect, but man, I thought that he really, really had a tough go tonight.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, kind of the big boys didn't have their game. I my bad was also just the two goal. There was two goals that Joseph Wall let in that.
Yeah.
I wish he would have stopped. The breakaway goal, I thought that was not great to get beat. 5-hole there, and the point shot, like
Carlo's goal, yeah.
yeah, like 3-1. I think I didn't like the Leafs' chances at 3-1, but at 4-1, it's just like curtains, right?
Yeah,
So
only the Leafs give up 4-1 leads, evidently.
Now, I'm not also going to blame Joseph Wolf for that Frederick goal because that was a really stupid decision by Neil. Like, when is this team going to learn not to do that stuff? And I'm trying very hard to keep this PG because I had some other thoughts when I saw that play. Like, why does this team not understand? They say they have taken lessons, and yet they go and do the same dumb thing by Ditzel doing at the point when they got pressure coming their way. No one's backing them up. And at least, like, how many odd man rushes, breakaways do we need to see? And Sheldon Keefe can't keep benching guys to send messages. Like, at some point, they're either going to get it or they're not.
Yeah, well, he didn't bench Nylander after that.
Surprised. I was surprised.
He was out there on the first power play, the couple of shifts later. So, he didn't quite send a message there. I'll be curious to hear some of the quotes coming out from Sheldon Keefe when they start filtering out through the media post game, because I'm sure he'll have some choice words for that game, because it wasn't a good one from the Maple Leafs. The ugly for me tonight, well, there's a couple. I thought Timothy Liljegren did not have a good game as well. The first period was terrible, like we had spoken about. But for me, the decision for Mitch Marner not to shoot the puck. You had a wide open cage. What the hell are you waiting for, man? Shoot the puck. And it was a pivotal time in the game too, because they had just cut the lead to 1. It was a 2-1 hockey game. You have the puck on your stick. You're starting to gain momentum. You got a wide open cage, and all of a sudden you think twice. You try and take it around the net. What are you doing? And then it was over from there. Then the Bruins made it 3-1, then later 4-1, and that was it. But they had a chance. He had the game tied up. It was on his stick, and he didn't fire it. What the hell are you doing? What are you doing?
Every time that replay happened, I wanted to scream. Like, it's one of those where you have the parent in the crowd yelling at their kid to shoot the puck. Like, why you're not getting a better chance to score? You just scored a goal because you shot the puck.
And do you think if he was on home ice and like all of Scotiabank Arena yells shoot, because that's what would have happened if he was on home ice? You think he would have shot? You think you would have shot?
I don't know. I just think he just overthought the play. I don't know what he was. Maybe he didn't feel he had good enough control in the puck. I said maybe he was in shock that Simon Benoit made such a great pass, and like the shock was just too much to overcome. I don't know,
Yeah,
but it was that to me, yeah, that would have been a game changer in my opinion. They score that
totally.
goal, they're feeling a lot better about themselves after they were down, 2-0 to get
100%. That was the tie, man. That would have made it 2-2 at that point in the hockey game. Like that would have been a big time goal and potentially a game shifting, game tilting kind of goal. And he didn't get it, and the momentum went the other way after that, and finished up 4-1. They lose the game. They also lose Matthew Knies to injury, who left in the first period after a collision with Brad
That
Marchand.
was also gonna be my other ugly. Like that's an interference penalty. Sorry, even if it's just an
Yeah.
innocent collision, he hits him though. Like it's a collision, but he gets a check in on him.
Yeah,
He's got
and
called for way less in this game
well,
than
that Tavares high stick was like very. I mean, whatever. It
in
was.
comparison.
Yeah, I guess it was, but it was like very ticky tack. Yeah, I don't know. It was very much a little sell job there
Of course.
by the Bruin player. But no update on Matthew Knies as of now. Sheldon keeps saying that they don't have an update. But they gotta get an answer on him quick. Like you got the deadline coming up here in just a few hours now. Like it's go time. You got to figure out. Is Knies going to be available to you anytime soon? Is this now all of a sudden? Do you need to add like an impact player, a top 6 guy? I mean, you got to figure this out as soon as possible if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh yeah, it's going. It's. I mean, we can talk about it a little more in the trade deadline part, but I think, yeah, that injury there opens up a can of worms in terms of how you want to handle your lineup going forward for sure, especially considering his history.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take a break. Let's come back. Let's talk about the trade that was made on Thursday to beef up the back end. Actually, there's 2 trades technically, one big one and one little minor one, but we'll hit them both. Joel Edmundson, the newest Maple Leaf, who will join the Leafs. He's already actually with the Leafs. He was at the game tonight watching in Boston and probably thinking to himself, I could have been out there. I could have made a difference. I hope that's the case. And he makes a difference on Saturday. So we'll talk about that trade, what Edmundson brings to the Leafs, if it's a fit, and also discuss if there is something else that the Maple Leafs might be looking to do before the 3 p.m. trade deadline. That's all coming up next on the Locked On Leafs podcast.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Factor. Eating better is easy with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to go in just 2 minutes. You'll have over 35 different options to choose from every week, including Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Also, there are more than 60 add-ons to help you stay fueled up and feeling good all day. What are you waiting for? Get started today and get after your goals. Factor is the perfect solution if you're looking for fast premium options with no cooking required. Get as much or as little as you need by choosing your meals every week. Plus, you can pause or reschedule your deliveries anytime. No prep, no mess. Factor meals are ready to heat and eat, so there's no prepping, cooking, or cleanup needed. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 and use code LockedOnNHL50 to get 50% off. That's code LockedOnNHL50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 to get 50% off.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. The Maple Leafs busy on the phones. Brad Treliving making not 1 but 2 trades today to beef up the back end and bring in a couple of monsters to improve the blue line for not only the present but also the future. Picking up Joel Edmundson from the Washington Capitals, and then a smaller deal picking up Cade Weber from the Carolina Hurricanes, currently at Boston University. We'll touch on him in a sec, but obviously the main events, the big acquisition here is Joel Edmundson coming over from the Washington Capitals. The Maple Leafs paying a 3rd-round pick in 2024 and a 5th-round pick in 2025. They get Edmundson at 50% salary retention. He's a left-handed defenseman, but can play the right side. So it's unideal that he's a left shot, but can play the right. He's 30 years old, 6'5", 220 pounds. That, my friends, is the prototype of what Brad Treliving likes on his back end. He's a lumberjack. He'll cross check the hell out of you, not afraid to hit you when you're in front of the net, sandwich you into the boards. So he fills that need for, grit and snarl and nastiness in front of the net that makes you tougher to play against, which is what this team and what this blue line was looking to do, especially when you watch these last couple of games against the Bruins. You kind of need that. And they didn't really have that in some of these guys that they're throwing over the boards over the course of the last week. So he could come in and add a little bit more of that nastiness. The problem here is it's not that it's a problem, but it's a theme that is consistent with this team. It's another natural left shot defenseman, Dave. So not the most ideal pickup, but for a low cost of a third and a fifth, it was definitely worth making the move. And I suppose he can be an upgrade overall. You're just adding to the depth of your blue line. Those are my thoughts on the deal, just kind of overall. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he know exactly what you're getting from him. He's gonna bring the physicality. He's gonna help that penalty kill, that size. Like Sheldon Keefe said, they don't really have anyone with his size back there, and that's going to be a key component there. And I remember him in that series against Montreal in that playoff round. He was a menace to go up against. Now, did he get away with some things? Of course. Will he get away with those things in Toronto? Probably not.
Yeah, him and Austin Matthews, if I recall, got acquainted with each other a couple of times while he was a Montreal Canadian, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I just think he's gonna bring more of what this team needs and lacks. Right now, would he prefer if he's a right shot? Yeah, but at least the fact that he's played the right side means it's a little more comfortable for him than maybe some other guys who are forced to do it and may not be as comfortable. So I know again another depth option. Likely also means we see less Timothy Liljegren or even maybe Simon Benoit. He didn't have his best game tonight, and I wonder if that's you try some different looks there with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think the defensive pairings are very much up in the air right now. I think that we're going to see, much like we saw last year when the blue line or at the deadline, they picked up like 3 defensemen at the deadline. They also moved out Sandin, and they kind of revamped things on the fly, at least the depth, and they tried different iterations of this lineup. Like Luke Shen sat out for a little bit. Justin Hall sat some games out. Liljegren sat some games out. Eric Gustafsson sat some games out. Like they kind of moved guys in and out until they found a formula that they liked. I would imagine we'll see something similar going forward. Is there one in particular like lineup or pairings that you've kind of thought about that you think makes sense that, in Montreal for Edmonton's first game, like what are the deep pairings going to look like if you were Sheldon Keefe? How would you deploy it?
I think the best case and what you could do, especially given the road matchups, you might put Edmundson with like a Liljegren, Riley and Lyubushkin, Brody and McCabe.
So you're taking Simon Benoit out?
I think so. I think he didn't. Again, has Liljegren played great? No, but who are you playing on the right side other than who you play?
Unless you could stick Edmundson out, like
you could do a Benoit Edmundson third pairing. You very well could. I just wonder maybe they want to get someone that's a little bit better with the puck handling in that role too.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes Liljegren isn't so great at handling the puck, especially behind his own goal. I don't know if you saw that tonight and how that turned out for Toronto. Yeah. And in the playoffs, many times he's given a couple grenades that have not turned out well. So, yeah, I don't know how they're going to shake out. I think that's probably it. I've seen some suggest that Maybe you end up moving Brody back over to the right side and you go with Riley Labushkin, and you go with Edmundson, Brody, and then, Benoit and Lilligren.
Benoit McCabe.
Or sorry, Benoit Benoit McCabe, sorry. That's a possibility too. It's really strange. Again, just adding another left shot, it's just unideal. You know, it's just very unideal because now you just have a bunch of guys who are left shot defensemen but can play the right. But everyone knows that they're better off on the left. But who can get by the most on the right is pretty much what it's going to get down to here. Should be interesting. Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. He is with the team. He was in Boston tonight. Obviously, didn't play, but is expected to be in the lineup Saturday against the Montreal Canadiens. Should also note that he's a Stanley Cup winner. Won a cup when he was with St. Louis, played some big minutes for them, and also when he was with Montreal, beat Toronto en route to a cup final. So lots of playoff experience, loads of playoff experience, and it's worth noting that when the playoffs come, it's a different style of hockey and one that Edmundson knows how to play. It's geared towards his style of play. So should be interesting. But are they done, Dave? Are they done? That's the question that we all want to know. We'll chat about it on the other side. You're listening to Locked On Leafs podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's show is also brought to you by Indeed. No matter how the game went, anytime you take the field, you've got a shot at greatness. Give your team the best shot at winning by recruiting more MVPs with Indeed. If you're hiring, you need Indeed because Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites to find candidates with the right skills, you need one powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. Indeed partners helps you every step of the way find great talent through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match assessments and virtual interviews. Indeed makes it easy to hire great talent. According to ComScore, Indeed is the #1 job site worldwide, and Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest back in 2019. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer valid through March 31st. Go to Indeed.com/lockedon to claim your $75 job credit before March 31st. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hire? You need Indeed.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you. We are a daily Maple Leaf centric podcast. We got new episodes that come out Monday through Friday, each and every weekday. You can find them wherever you get your podcasts, also up on YouTube. We're on our road to 5K subscribers. We're very close, less than 300 subs away. I think maybe like 280 or 275, something like that, from getting to 5,000. And once we get there, we're giving away a Leafs jersey. So make sure you're one of the 5,000 to sub up if you haven't already. Share it with your friends, with your family, and get us closer to 5K as soon as possible so that one of y'all can get yourself a Leafs jersey. There was one other deal that the Leafs made today that we should touch on really, really quickly because it is very much a minor trade. But they picked up Cade Weber, they picked up the rights to Cade Weber, who is a former draft pick of the Carolina Hurricanes. He's playing over at Boston University. He's a senior at Boston University. He's a player who is, if he doesn't sign with Toronto, becomes an unrestricted free agent by August 15th. I believe the expectation, though, if you're giving up a 6th-round pick, probably, there's some interest there in his part to sign in Toronto, I would think. But how's this for a Brad Tree-Living prototype? 6'7", 210 pounds, and blocks a ton of shots. Quite literally, I saw today, he just broke an NCAA record for shots blocked in a season. So That's the new player acquired by the Toronto Maple Leafs. 23 years old, so he's a little bit on the older side for a prospect. But I would imagine once his season's done at Boston College, he'll sign an entry-level deal with the Maple Leafs, and we'll see what he can do with the Marlies, and maybe one day he becomes a Maple Leaf. We'll see. We'll see what happens with good old Cade Weber. Yeah. You any comments?
No,
there?
I mean, it just look, this team doesn't really have a lot of bigger defensemen, so it's not. Brad Treliving has a type.
Yeah.
Let's just say he has a type.
Yeah, left shot defenseman.
Yeah, if you're over 6'5" and shoot left-handed, you got a good chance of being on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah,
your right shot. Yeah, it's a stickier situation for yourself.
So we'll see. Actually, Colby Cohen, who's a former NHLer, I did see him tweet this out earlier today. He said, "I've watched Cade Weber play about 100 games at Boston University. He's a 6'7" physical shot blocking machine who skates well and can make a first pass. That is intriguing. This is a well-developed prospect and is 100% worth a 6th-round pick by the Maple Leafs." So, former NHLer who's based in Boston and has seen a bunch of BU games, believes that he's a worthwhile flyer to take for a 2026 6th-round pick. So welcome to the organization, Cade Weber. Anyone else going to be welcome to the organization in the next few hours here, Dave, as we approach the 3 p.m. trade deadline? You think the Leafs are done, or is there still a move or two left to be made, you think?
I don't think that they're done. I think there's probably still something to be done. My only question is, are they going to subtract from the current roster to get it done? Because not only do they need to trade something to get something, they also don't really have the cap space, right? They're not Vegas and actually we say that maybe Matthew Knies is the LTIR candidate, but I mean, Leafs aren't like Vegas and just make LTIR guys come out of nowhere, right? The only guy right now, and that was because it was a necessity, was Connor Timmins.
Right.
So I mean, the only other guy is Giordano, but that's only 800,000.
Let's be honest; they do have a lot of money right now on LTIR. However, like Jake Muzzin, Matt Murray,
15.5 million. If you want to know the exact amount they have on
John Klingberg, like they've got guys on LTIR. Let's not act like they don't. So it's not just Vegas. Toronto's making good use of it too. People forget about Muzzin's money. And again, it's not as though, like, I know it's different because we all assume that these guys that Vegas have are going to return, whereas Toronto's players will not. It's a little more severe, but they're still well above the salary cap at the end of the day. That being said, like there still is some wiggle room because they did get that contract retained at 50%. I don't think there's enough room to go out and make a massive deal. But listening to like a lot of the insiders today, it sounds as though they're targeting a depth forward of some kind, someone who can play defensively responsible and, add a little toughness to that bottom six. A name that I'm kind of thinking who might be a good fit would be like a Nick Dowd out in Washington. Now, you would think if you were talking with Washington and you were getting a trade done with Joel Edmundson, like, would you try and work out a 2-for-1? That probably would have made more sense, I guess. So maybe that's not in the cards, but it is a player who I think kind of fits the mold of what they do need. And outside of him, is there another name that maybe you've seen or heard that you think would be a good addition here at the deadline?
The thing is, like, I don't really know anyone else that's like really like in the Leafs price range. Like there's
space. Don't give it. There's space. Like,
there is some space. They can trade guys.
If they wanted to add a big piece, they could. Like, if they wanted to add Matt Dumba, they could. If they wanted to add Tyler Toffoli, they can do it. Like, it's not as though they don't have any space here. They could make a big addition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're not. Well, we already know Jake Guentzel's off the market. That deal's pretty much done right now.
Yeah, I mean that's actually, I just saw a tweet come across. It is done. We'll talk about it in a sec.
So I don't see. I'm looking here. there's not a player that screams to me other than like a Nick Dowd. That I mean, I heard Tyler Toffoli's name being brought up in the Discord. That one there is probably going to be like that's the expensive one, right?
Right.
Like Toffoli is more than like a mid, like he's like your a second line player, right? But he's more offensive defense, in my opinion, right? Like he plays a responsible game. He's not that defensively responsible guy. That's why I'm not entirely sure of the fit there. But yeah, I just can't think of anyone other than like Nick Dowd was the only one that really was screaming to me. And if you're looking at a forward, that's the guy.
Yeah, I ordered also on maybe a Nick Bukestad out of Arizona, potentially as well.
That's also a possibility. I heard somebody also brought up Lars Eller, but I don't know if that's it doesn't excite. Well, I'm not looking for exciting for like a depth player, but it doesn't scream to me as that's like a guy that's going to solve the Leafs' problems.
Yeah, probably not. But so you think, if they make a move, it's depth, nothing significant remaining here.
The only way they make something significant is if again they're trading like a guy like Robertson Liljegren off the roster. And after you've seen these last few games from Liljegren, don't know how many people are going to be supporting keeping him around.
Well, how many teams will be wanting to bring that in?
So a team that's going to maybe see if a different team brought in, well, I mean, Sandine was in a different situation, but a similar situation like that.
Well, so you think a 5-year, $4.6 million contract is in Liljegren's horizon? Is this what you're telling me?
Some team will pay him that.
No, they won't.
Right shot defenseman, Mike. They don't come around too often.
Well, I guess Hall did get paid what, $325?
Yeah,
to sit in the press box and eat popcorn in Detroit.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, man. We'll see what happens with the Leafs. They are calling. Brad Treliving seems to be still active. He does want to get something done. Depth forward or middle six forward would be ideal. I still think another right shot defenseman would be nice. Again, if that even means, like you said, moving out one of the current D-men, left side defenseman to get it done, just to balance out the righty lefty stuff. I'd be on board with that as well, or upgrading Liljegren if that means putting him in a deal. I'm not convinced that Nick Robertson is going to be a Maple Leaf past this trade deadline. So could they find, not a struggling, but like a Nick Robertson, but in defensive form somewhere around the NHL, like a swap of, two young players. Like what about an Adam Boqvist? What about a swap of like Adam Boqvist for Nick Robertson? Does that make any sense? That makes some sense, especially since it sounds like now, for whatever reason, after talking about needing big, tough physical defensemen, now everyone's talking about how now they need a puck mover. It's like, oh, okay. Now they need puck moving defensemen. Well, maybe Boqvist could be of interest from out in Columbus. Lots of other more trades that went down today, and one that's literally coming across as we're recording here. The return is being announced. The trade call has finished, and it looks like officially Jake Guentzel is a Carolina Hurricane, Dave.
Yeah, that's actually not where I was expecting that to go, because like we all thought Vegas was priming themselves to get him. And yeah, so I'm very surprised about this return. I'm not going to lie.
So explain what the return is first.
So I'm actually, hold on, because I've been seeing so many different.
That's like, I don't have an exact return. It's
so
like,
I know that they got a conditional first round pick. I'll go with that first. A conditional first round pick that becomes a second round pick if Carolina does not make the Cup final in 2024, which if you watch the Hurricanes play this year, don't know if it's going to be their year. So that first would become a second. We know Michael Bunting is a part of that deal, and Saravalli said that there's multiple prospect pieces plus Bunting, multi-layered. So Kyle Dubas looks like he went with the quantity option. I don't know how much quality because we don't know the other pieces. But if the main pieces are Bunting and a conditional first for arguably the top deadline asset,
Yeah, that doesn't seem very good at all.
people in Pittsburgh are not too happy. Jay Fresh, who is a big Penguins guy, not too thrilled if Bunting and a first.
Okay, full trade now. Man. Okay. So full trade from Pierre LeBrun. Guentzel at 25% retained and Ty Smith for Michael Bunting, Ville Koivunen, Vasily Ponomarov, Cruz Lucius, who was a first-round pick of them not too long ago, conditional first-round pick, and a fifth-round pick.
That's also conditional.
Which is also conditional. So a first, a fifth, Cruz Lucius, who was a former first-round pick by the Carolina Hurricanes, Ponomarov, who I think was like a second rounder a couple of years ago, Ville Koivunen, and then Michael Bunting back with Kyle Dubas.
We said Brad Treliving had a type. Kyle Dubas, 1,000% that's a type.
Former Sioux, get over here. Come on, let's rebuild.
If I had known, I would have found a way to have some sort of ties to the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, so I would have had a job in the NHL.
Yeah, been guaranteed a job. Yeah,
Sheldon Keefe has a job because of that connection.
Yeah. So there it is. That's the return. It does seem a little light, but to your point, he definitely went for quantity over quality for this one. I mean, if they get that first round pick, so I guess they could still end up with I was going to say decently high second, but Philadelphia will.
It's Phillies. They're better. Don't they have like a similar record to Carolina?
Yeah, they do. So, I mean, they have a worse record, but not by a lot. Like Phillies in third in the division, Carolina's in second, so it's really not that far off. We're talking about a few draft picks, unless one of these two teams end up going to a Cup final, or to the Final Four, I suppose, and then it changes from there. Yeah, that's a steal. That's a steal, if you ask me, for the Carolina Hurricanes, and to me, that's a big ad. Like I know you're talking about how you don't. You may not have the most faith in Carolina. I thought that Jake Guentzel was the type of piece that they needed that could put them over the top, that could let them compete with the Rangers and compete with the Florida Panthers. I actually love this deal for Jake Guentzel. Him and Sebastian Aho, I think, are going to score a lot of goals.
Like, don't get me wrong, Jake Guentzel is a playoff performer.
Yeah, he is. Go look at those cups. Go look at those cups in 16, 17.
And as been said before, the best winger Crosby has ever had. Arguably, best line mate.
Like you mean outside of Mario Lemieux, who he played with in his rookie season?
Yes. Let's go with winger.
What about Marian Hossa?
I like.
Get out of here! Get out of here!
Marian
Hossa, Hall of Famer. You're gonna tell me that Jake Guentzel's a better player than Marian Hossa? Get out of here! Jake Guentzel's a better player than Jerome McGinley? Get out of here!
Hold on.
Terrible take, Dave.
Hold on.
Terrible take.
Jerome McGinley was in his late. He was at the end of his career with Crosby.
Jerome McGinley. Come on now. No,
hey,
he wasn't.
Jake Guentzel
wasn't. He was like 30 or 32, maybe 33, perhaps.
Guentzel had 2 40-goal seasons, a 36-goal season, and then that one playoff run.
He's good, but he's not the best winger that he's ever played with. Come on now.
During his time in Pittsburgh, I will argue that he was. He had 13 goals, 21 points in that playoff run. He had 2 back-to-back 21-point playoff runs.
Let us know in the comments below. Is Jake Guentzel the best winger that
Crosby has had in his time in Pittsburgh,
has played with in his tenure in Pittsburgh? And I guess because David wants to win this argument, we're not including Mario Lemieux, arguably the second best player, arguably the best player all time. But you're just gonna not include him in this argument?
It's not like Mario Lemieux was in his 90s self when he was with Crosby. That's what I'm trying to get at here.
Hossa was in his prime.
What was that? Hossa was like at his best with Ottawa than he was with Pittsburgh.
Let me see what Hossa did. I know he only spent literally 3 months in Pittsburgh.
Let's not forget that he jumped ship
Dude,
as soon as he
Hossa,
lost to Pittsburgh.
12 goals, 26 points, went to a cup final. Hossa was great in Pittsburgh, man.
But
what are you talking about?
I remain adamant that Guentzel was better. Now, he had the one playoff run. Guentzel had two. Guentzel had he had 2 points, over almost 2 points a game in the second time around.
All right, we're not going to argue about this anymore. We'll let the comments decide. Who was Crosby's best winger? It was Jake Guentzel, the best winger to ever play with Sidney Crosby. I bet you were even forgetting somebody that
probably
are screaming, "What about this guy, you idiot? This guy was way better." I guarantee you.
Please don't bring up Connor Sheary, because I know some people always say that Connor Sheary was
Chris
good.
Kunitz made Team Canada. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna get those comments in the section. But that was the biggest fish that was left. That was really the only big fish that was left on the trade bait boards, man. Today, you're gonna see a lot of depth moves. Tyler Toffoli was held out of the game last night for trade related reasons. So Toffoli, it sounds like they're listening hard and potentially could move him. I did see a very interesting tweet. Oh no, I lost it. But it was something. Hold on. Let me quickly find out who the tweet was before I actually say it, because I want to make sure that it was a credible source, that I'm not just spewing nonsense here. But I'm pretty sure I saw somebody mention something about, Jacob Billington, who does have a check mark. I don't know who the heck this guy is. So I don't know if I want to go with it. But he's tweeting that he's hearing that Pierre-Luc Dubois is the Kings might be shopping PLD, and that Boston
after that deal that they signed.
Well, Boston apparently is kicking tires. So,
Kings asking about Omar Swayman. Okay,
I know. That's why I'm like, I don't know if this makes any sense for Boston to do. But I saw that tweet, was like, that's interesting.
I mean, third liner for the Kings, he'll become a stud in Boston, because that's how it always works.
Just kind of reading right now some of the guys in just some of the prospect writers online talking about some of the return that that Jake Guentzel's getting, like some of those prospects like Kuvanen and Ponomarov and Cruz Lucius. People seem to be split. Apparently this Koivunen's having quite this season. He's got 55 points in 57 games at 20 years old in Finland. Chaz Lucius, 31 points.
Kyle likes his Finnish prospects, so I'm not surprised on that.
Yeah, that's very true. So apparently they're adding some skill with these guys, and then adding himself a Michael Bunting. How about Michael Bunting? You get to spend a couple of years sitting shotgun to Austin Matthews. You damn well know Michael Bunting's going to be up with Sidney Crosby, right?
1,000%.
Guentzel's gone.
He's got to replace the best winger that Crosby's ever had.
Yeah,
he's not going to try to go and get that crown now.
I hate that take, Dave. I got to tell you, that might be the worst take you've ever had.
Oh wow.
No, it's not the worst take you've ever had, but I can't, in my mind, I just can't get behind it. That's it. I can't get behind it. Anything else that stood out to you today about the trade deadline, or anything that give me a bold prediction. Give me a bold prediction for the deadline today.
Oh my God. My bold prediction is that the Leafs are going to make another swing.
It's not bold.
Bold?
Okay, swing. If you say swing, you better mean someone like a top 4 defenseman.
Yeah, I'm not talking about getting another third pairing defenseman. We've already acquired enough of those. How about this? I think the Ottawa Senators will trade Jacob Chychrun.
Oh, okay. I like that. That's bold. I mean, I think Nick Robertson's dealt today.
like it's little. I think if they're gonna do anything like that, Nick Robertson's gonna be involved.
Yeah.
Or Timothy Liljegren.
Either Robertson or Liljegren. Yeah.
Or both.
I not that I'll be shocked, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of those two players are involved in some sort of deal and are no longer Maple Leafs by 3 p.m. today. That's kind of my Leafs take. My Leafs take for you today.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 3 p.m. We'll see what happens. We'll see what else the Toronto Maple Leafs can get up to. Leafs got a game tomorrow playing the Montreal Canadiens. It'll be Joel Edmondson's Leafs debut. He'll be rocking number 20. Number 20. Pop quiz trivia. Who's the last Maple Leaf defenseman?
I already know this. Dryden Hunt.
No. Who's the last Maple Leafs defenseman?
Oh, defenseman.
Let me finish my question, Dave.
Damn it. Go ahead.
Who was it?
Last Leafs defenseman?
Yeah.
Ooh. I actually don't know this one. I don't remember a Leafs defenseman that wore 20.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Friend of the show.
Oh, Frankie. That's right.
Frankie Corrado. I know he didn't play too often, so you didn't see 20 out
You know what's funny? My brother has a Frankie Corrado signed jersey. I've actually never seen it, but
does
he does
really?
Yeah, he does.
That's funny. That's awesome. Maybe I'll get a signed jersey from Frankie. I'm going to see Frankie today. I'll say hello. All right, buddy. Let's get out of here. It's 50 minutes down. It was a long pod, but there's just a lot going on in hockey. A lot more going to happen today. We'll recap it all on Monday, along with Edmondson's debut for the Leafs against the Habs. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms. You can follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for y'all on Monday. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Enjoy the NHL trade deadline. It's coming in hot at 3 p.m. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.